Tonight, as the sun slips behind the trees, your village is locking down early tonight. Every door closes a little earlier, every conversation grows quieter, every child is reminded one last time, stay out of the king's forest. Not because wolves live there, not because the woods are haunted, but because somewhere beneath those towering oaks, a single rabbit is worth more than your entire life. You don't own the land beneath your feet. You don't own the firewood that falls from the branches. You certainly don't own the deer, the boar, or the rabbits racing through the undergrowth. They belong to one man you've probably never met, the king. Tomorrow morning, you'll step into those woods anyway. Not because you're brave, because your family hasn't eaten properly in 3 days. And history shows that for thousands of ordinary people, hunger has always been far more terrifying than the law. Before dawn, the village is little more than drifting smoke and muffled coughs. Your wife is already awake, stirring a pot that's almost embarrassingly empty. Water, a handful of wilted greens. If she's lucky, maybe enough barley to fool the children into thinking breakfast exists. They don't complain anymore, and that's somehow worse. Your youngest asks whether there will be meat tonight. You smile. It's the same smile every parent has worn throughout history when hope is easier than honesty. Outside, frost clings to the fields. The harvest failed weeks ago after relentless rain rotted much of the grain before it could be gathered. Taxes still came due. They always do. The Lord took his share. The church took theirs. By the time everyone more important than you had eaten, there wasn't much left for the people who actually grew the food. That's medieval economics in a nutshell. You survive what's left over. The forest begins only a short walk beyond the fields, but it might as well be another kingdom. Massive oaks block the morning light. Thick undergrowth muffles every footstep. The air smells damp, earthy, almost comforting. Until you remember where you are. This isn't simply woodland. It's a royal hunting forest. Despite the name, large sections aren't even densely wooded. Forest is a legal designation, not a description. Entire villages, farms, rivers, and meadows can fall inside its boundaries. And with that declaration comes an entirely different set of laws. Forest law, a separate legal system designed for one purpose: protecting animals. Not because anyone loved rabbits, because kings loved hunting. The deer are protected, the boar are protected, even the undergrowth that shelters them becomes precious. Damage a tree, cut timber, set a snare, chase a stag, everything carries consequences. Some consequences leave scars, others leave empty graves.
You tell yourself you're only looking. Maybe a fallen branch, maybe mushrooms, maybe fortune finally decides you've suffered enough. Hours pass. Your stomach growls louder than the birds. Then you see it, a rabbit, small, fat, completely unaware that it has just become the center of your universe. It freezes. You freeze. Your heart pounds so loudly you're convinced the animal can hear it. No elaborate traps, no hunting dogs, no bow. Just a smooth stone resting in your hand. You've thrown stones your entire life, at crows, at trees, across rivers. Never at something that could decide whether your children eat. The throw feels almost effortless. The rabbit drops instantly. Silence. You don't celebrate. You don't cheer. You run. You wrap the animal inside your coat like stolen treasure and move through the trees as though every branch has suddenly become a witness, because someone is always watching. The king employs foresters whose job isn't simply protecting wildlife. They're investigators, trackers, professional observers who know these woods better than anyone born outside them. They notice broken twigs, fresh footprints, recently disturbed leaves, missing animals. Long before forensic science ever existed, these men could reconstruct a crime from little more than crushed moss. And unlike village officials, they answer directly to royal authority. They have every reason to make arrests. By midday, you believe you've succeeded. The rabbit remains hidden. No voices follow you. No horns echo through the forest. Then you notice something strange. The bird stops singing. It's astonishing how quickly nature announces another human presence. A branch snaps somewhere behind you, then another. Not close enough to see, close enough to hear. You don't turn around. Turning confirms guilt. Walking faster confirms fear. so you keep exactly the same pace while every instinct screams to run. A hand lands firmly on your shoulder, not violently, confidently, like someone who already knows the story's ending. His clothes are ordinary, thick wool, mud on the boots, a short hunting knife hanging from his belt. Nothing about him suggests nobility. Everything about him suggests authority. "You've had a productive morning," he says. Not a question, a statement. You shake your head instinctively. The rabbit hiding beneath your cloak suddenly feels as heavy as an anvil. "I've found nothing." The forester smiles. It's a tired smile, almost disappointed, like he's heard this answer 1,000 times before. That's unfortunate. He whistles once. 2 more men emerge from the trees so quietly they might have grown from the forest itself. One circles behind you. Another crouches beside the muddy path, studying the ground instead of your face. He points to a patch of earth. Fresh footprints. Your footprints. A few steps farther, he brushes aside leaves and lifts something between 2 fingers. Rabbit fur. Only a single tuft torn away when you tucked the animal beneath your cloak. It's almost laughable. Your entire future reduced to 3 strands of fur. The forester doesn't even ask permission before searching you. Within seconds, the rabbit is lying in his hands. Still warm, still fresh. Evidence. You expect shouting. You expect violence. Instead, he sighs. You people always choose rabbits. The sentence catches you off guard. Always. Not sometimes, not occasionally. Always. Because hunger is predictable. The royal courts knew that. The foresters knew that. Even the kings probably knew it. Yet the laws remained exactly the same. A starving peasant and a professional poacher often faced remarkably similar charges. The journey to the forest court takes hours. Your wrists are tied, but not painfully. There's no rush. Escape isn't realistic. Everyone recognizes the foresters. Every village knows what captured prisoners look like. Along the road, people avoid eye contact. Some pity you. Others silently thank God it wasn't them. Your wife will know something is wrong before sunset. The children will ask where you've gone. By tomorrow morning, rumors will spread faster than truth ever could. He killed the king's game. He attacked a forester. They caught him with a crossbow. Every retelling grows slightly worse. History worked a lot like social media. Facts rarely won. The court isn't inside a grand castle. It's held in a timber hall near the edge of the forest, specifically dedicated to enforcing forest law. Separate officials, separate procedures, separate priorities. A clerk carefully records her name, or tries to. Few peasants spell anything consistently because few peasants can read. To history, people like you often become little more than phonetic guesses.
The officials ask surprisingly few questions. Where were you found? What was taken? Who witnessed the arrest? Did the foresters recover the animal? The evidence feels overwhelming because it is. Modern courts often debate intent. Forest courts cared more about action. The rabbit existed, you possessed it, case closed. But punishment isn't always immediate. Forest law evolved over centuries, and its severity shifted depending on the ruler, the region, and the exact offense. Popular imagination loves tales of instant executions for killing deer, but reality was often stranger, and in some ways, crueler. Large fines were common, confiscation of property, public humiliation, imprisonment, mutilation in earlier periods. Repeat offenders faced harsher consequences. For someone with money, a fine might sting. For someone who owns almost nothing, a fine becomes impossible. The officials ask whether you can pay. You almost laugh. Pay with what? The potched boots? The leaking roof? The handful of chickens that barely survive winter? Justice, you've discovered, becomes remarkably expensive when you're poor. The forester speaks unexpectedly. He has children. You glance toward him. Is he helping? Not exactly. He's explaining. He wasn't hunting for profit. The magistrate nods without emotion. I don't doubt it. That changes nothing. Those 4 words echo across centuries, because they weren't really judging your hunger. They were protecting authority. If exceptions exist, everyone begins asking for one. If one rabbit is forgiven, perhaps the next year should be, then another. Soon the king's forest belongs to everyone. From the crown's perspective, mercy could become more dangerous than crime. You're ordered to pay a fine beyond anything your family could realistically earn in years. Since you cannot pay, your remaining possessions are seized: tools, livestock, anything of value. It's astonishing how quickly poverty can become absolute. The rabbit that might have fed your family for one night has instead guaranteed they may struggle for months. And that wasn't unusual. Medieval punishment often extended far beyond the accused. Wives, children, elderly parents, they all carried consequences they never chose. As you're led outside, another prisoner waits beneath a tree. Older, thin, weathered. He whispers without looking at you. "Rabbit?" You nod. He sighs. "Mine was firewood." You stare. Dead branch. That's all it took. A fallen branch collected for warmth. Inside the royal forest, even dead wood could belong to the crown.
The realization settles like cold rain. The law isn't merely protecting animals, it's controlling every resource within these boundaries. Every tree, every branch, every creature, every hungry family. You return home days later with almost nothing. Your cottage looks the same from the outside. Smoke still curls from the chimney, chickens still scratch at the frozen ground, the same crooked fence still leans as though it's exhausted from standing. But inside, everything has changed. The wooden chest where your tools once sat is empty, the pig is gone, the small sack of barley hidden beneath the floorboards has been discovered and taken. Even your best axe, the one your father handed you years ago, is missing. Officials hadn't simply punished you, they had dismantled your future one possession at a time. Your wife says very little. She doesn't need to. The silence between the two of you carries more weight than any argument ever could. The children ask where the rabbit is. Neither of you answers. For weeks, neighbors quietly leave scraps of food outside your door. Nobody wants to be seen helping too openly. Associating with someone punished under forest law isn't exactly good for your own reputation. But hunger creates its own form of solidarity. Everyone understands. Everyone has imagined doing exactly what you did. Most simply weren't unlucky enough to get caught. Ironically, this shared understanding creates an unwritten rule inside many villages. Nobody reports another poacher unless forced to. Informers existed, of course, but they were rarely popular. Every family knew that one failed harvest could transform an honest farmer into an outlaw overnight. History often separates criminals from ordinary people. Real life rarely does. As winter deepens, something unexpected begins happening inside your own mind. You stop looking toward the forest, not because you fear it, because you resent it. The towering oaks that once promised mushrooms, berries, firewood, and shelter now feel like walls surrounding a palace you'll never enter. Every deer crossing the edge of the trees seems almost insulting. Nature overflows with food while the people living beside it slowly starve. It's a contradiction that frustrated generations of medieval peasants. The king's hunting forests weren't simply recreational playgrounds, they symbolized power. Reserving enormous landscapes for elite hunting demonstrated that the ruler possessed enough authority to decide who could touch nature itself. Owning land was impressive. Owning the animals moving freely across it was something else entirely. Over time, resentment simmered. Some villagers ignored the rules. Others became remarkably creative. Hidden snares disguised beneath leaves, nets stretched across game trails after dark, children sent into the woods because they attracted less suspicion than grown men. Entire communities quietly developed techniques to survive without attracting attention. It became a constant contest. Foresters improved their patrols, poachers improved their tricks. One side protected privilege, the other protected dinner. Neither side ever truly won. Centuries passed and attitudes slowly began to change. Monarchs came and went, legal systems evolved. Many of the harshest forest laws were gradually relaxed or abolished altogether. What had once been treated as an offense against royal authority increasingly came to be seen as what it often was: desperate people trying to survive. The forests remained, the rabbits remained, only the laws changed.
Today, if you walk through many of those ancient royal forests, you'll find peaceful hiking trails, families having picnics, children chasing squirrels, and photographers patiently waiting for deer to emerge from the trees. It's difficult to imagine that these same paths once filled ordinary people with genuine fear. Not fear of nature, fear of another human being carrying the king's authority. History has a strange habit of making injustice seem normal while it's happening. The people living under forest law didn't wake up every morning believing they were trapped inside a cruel system. They simply accepted the rules they'd inherited because challenging them carried consequences few could afford. Yet every now and then, hunger forced someone to ask a dangerous question. Who really owns the forest? The answer, for centuries, depended entirely on who held the crown, and somewhere in forgotten court records, buried beneath faded ink and nearly illegible handwriting, are thousands of stories much like yours. Men and women whose names have been lost, remembered only because they gathered firewood, caught a fish, or killed a rabbit at the wrong place and the wrong time. History celebrates kings who hunted magnificent stags. It rarely remembers the father who risked everything for one small meal. Perhaps that's the greatest irony of all. The people who ruled the forest are famous. The people who were forced to survive it are almost invisible. But if you listen closely beneath the wind moving through those ancient trees, you can almost hear the echoes of ordinary footsteps, cautious and hungry, hoping that just this once, nobody's watching. If you enjoyed stepping into one of history's forgotten lives, subscribe for more stories that reveal what the past really felt like to the people who lived it. And let me know in the comments, which overlooked corner of history should we survive next?